Welcome back to Professor Williams' laboratory. Today we have a very, very exciting experiment that we are going to be conducting, and it is going to be testing to see whether objects are opaque, translucent, or transparent. So let me welcome you into my lab and share my screen without further ado so that you can get joined in. So today we are going to explain how light travels through objects. Okay, by the end of this lesson, we will know that various objects allow different levels of light to pass through them. We will also be able to categorize objects into opaque, translucent, and transparent. You're probably all thinking, what do those words mean? Maybe some of you do know already what some of those words mean, but don't worry, I am going to explain it in a second. But before I do, we are going to have a little quiz. So what I need you to do is I need you to shout out the correct answer. I'm going to read the question and you're going to shout out the correct answer at the screen. You can also pause the video after I've said the question so that you have enough time to answer. Are you ready? The first question is, what is the black center of an eye called? Is it A, the pupil, B, the iris, or C, the lens? Pause the video so that you can answer that question. The answer was A, the pupil. Let me use a brighter color so that you can all see that. It was A. The pupil is the black center of your eye. The iris is the colored part of your eye. So moving on, question number 2. What is the name for the process through which light bounces off an object and into the opposite direction? Is it A, refraction, B, shining, or C, reflection? You should know this because we all did it last week because you had a task to make a reflective coat for me, and the coat needed to do this thing when light shone on it. Pause the video so that you can answer the question. The answer was C, reflection. Moving swiftly on. Which materials reflect more light in the dark? Dull, dark materials, so colors like black and blue and dark gray. Is it B, bright, shiny materials? Perhaps those, what's it called, retroreflectors, any metallic materials? Or is it C, colourful materials? Pause the video so that you can answer that question. The answer was B, bright, shiny materials. Question number 4, you have to fill in the missing word. How does light travel? And it would be light travels in lines. How would you describe the lines that light travel in? The correct answer was straight. Light travels in straight lines. Question number 5. How many food groups are there? And this is a question from last year. So see if you can remember how many food groups are there. Pause the video so that you can answer that question. The answer was there are 5 main food groups. Okay, so let's go through our key vocabulary. These words in red you already know because we've gone through them the past 2 weeks. The words in blue are going to be the words that we are focusing on in this lesson. So emit, emit. And emit means to give out light. Okay, for example, the sun emits lots of light. The lamp emits light. Your computers emit light. And when something is a source of light, we call it a light source. That thing produces light. A torch, this torch that I have here, is a light source. My phone is a light source which emits light. Now, the words that I'm going to show you now are words that we are going to be going through this lesson. Translucent describes an object that allows some light to pass through. So you might be able to look through an object that is translucent. You might be able to see through it, but not completely. You won't be able to see a clear picture, maybe just the outline of an object. For example, I'm not going to show you these items just yet because I am going to use them, but a milk bottle, a milk jug, an empty one is translucent. I can see through it vaguely and I might be able to see an object behind it, but I won't be able to make out a clear picture. If something is transparent, transparent, I want you to repeat that. If an object is transparent, it means it allows the majority of light to pass through it. So when an object is transparent, most of the light is able to pass through it. Remember, if it's translucent, only some of the light can pass through. And if an object is opaque, then that means no light can pass through the object. You won't be able to see through it. That blocks the light or it absorbs the light. Okay, so a transparent object might be a window, an opaque object like here, I've got a mug and I wouldn't be able to see through this. So, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to open this video for you to watch, which is just going to explain a little bit more about it. Let me just reshare my screen so that you can all see that.
Science here. Today's episode is all about where light comes from with my expert friend Albert. Hi Seymour, pleasure to be here. Light is what helps us see things. It can come from different places like the sun or fire or from electricity in lamps and torches. Light is all around us like the sunlight in this kitchen. So what happens if we take all that away? We get darkness. Darkness is when there is no light. It makes it very hard to see. So let's bring the light back. Light can travel through air and water and even some solid objects, like this glass of water. We call these objects transparent.
Remember, it's transparent because it allows most of the light to pass through it so that you can see what's behind the object.
But some objects block light, like this wooden spoon. Or this bowl of cereal. We call these objects opaque. If light can't go through an object, it creates a shadow. But sometimes you get special objects that light bounces off, like this shiny metal spoon. This is called a reflection. So now we know that light can come from different sources and that some objects are transparent, some are opaque and cast a shadow, and some objects reflect light. Seymour, did you eat all of the cereal? Uh-oh, got to go.
Fantastic. Hopefully you learned something from that video. I'm just going to stop sharing it and we're going to go back to the main PowerPoint. So let me just get that back up for all of you. Fantastic. So let me also take off this lab coat because it's making a lot of noise. So just to go through that again, opaque describes any materials that absorb and block light. It prevents light from shining through. For example, if I was to shine a torch at this door, the person on the other side of the door is not going to be able to see that light because the door is opaque and it's blocking the light from shining through. If an object is translucent, like this blue glass, it's frosted glass, it allows some light to pass through. So I can see a form of a hand, I can see the outline of an object, but I cannot see it clearly. I can't see the color of it, I can't see any detail in it. I can just see the outline or silhouette of an object. It's not a clear image. So if an object is translucent, it allows some light to pass through, but not completely. If an object is transparent, it is clear. It allows most light to pass through it so that you can see clearly what's on the other side. For example, I'm shining a light on this window and I can see clearly the trees. I can see the color of them. I can see the shape of them. I can see the detail of them. We've got one more video here to show you before we go on to our experiment. So I'm just going to get that loaded for you. It's an advert. Let's just make sure that's fully loaded. Bear with me. Okay. And let's just reshare that again so that you can see. Where are we? Here we go.
see the objects outside the window? No, we can't. But the question is why? It's easy. Because the light from the outside of the window does not reach us. The wooden shutter blocks this incoming light. Such objects are called opaque objects, and they are very large in number. Almost everything around us is opaque if you think about it. Wood, metal, sheets, colored plastic, and so on. Now let's open the wooden shutters. Can you see something new? Yes, we see the surroundings through the glass. And I'm sure you know why. What has happened now is that we have a clear glass which allows light to pass through it, allowing us to see through it clearly. Such objects are called transparent objects. Earlier, the wooden shutter was opaque, and the opaque objects do not allow light to pass through them. Now look at this shelf which has a milky glass. Are we able to see what's inside? Well, we can't see the things clearly, but you do see something, right? You can probably guess that books are kept inside. Yes, milky glass allows light to pass through it, but only partially, and one can see some light coming through it. What is the difference between the two? While the objects like clear glass are called transparent objects, the objects which allow light to pass through it partially are called as translucent. We can easily think of examples of opaque objects. But can you think of other transparent or translucent objects? Yes, clean water, glass, clear plastic bottles, and air are all examples of transparent objects. Can you think of examples of translucent objects? Yes, butter, paper, thin sheet of plastic, milky glass are a few examples of translucent objects. In the next video,
Okay, well, actually, you can watch.
we will learn an interesting.
Okay, we're going to stop it there. So again, let me go back to our slides. It feels like I'm chopping and changing a lot in this lesson, but there's lots of different things that I want to show you so that you actually understand what's going on. So my question is, does light, knowing what you know now, having watched the videos, does light travel through all objects? I want you to pause this video and answer that question. Okay, hopefully you've had time to answer that question. The answer is no. Not all objects allow light to pass through. If they did, the sun would light up every room all of the time. It would be very difficult to sleep at night. We know that light doesn't travel through opaque objects, and light only travels partially through translucent objects, which brings you onto your first activity. If you have this sheet and you're able to print it off, great, you can do it on the sheet. If not, then what I need you to do is just copy out this, the keywords, and copy out the diagram and just match the keywords to the diagram. You can see that I have a light source and it's emitting light, and this here is an object that is letting different amounts of light pass through. In this picture, I can see some of the light is being passed through. This picture, I can see no light is being passed through, and in this picture I can see all of the light is passing through. So you have to match them to the keywords. Pause the video to do that now. Okay, hopefully you've had time to do that. Opaque was this picture. As you can see, no light's passing through. Transparent was this picture, as all of the light is passing through, and translucent, which was allowing some light to pass through, was this picture. Right, so as in the first video, they did mention shadows are formed when a light source shines on an opaque object. The opaque object blocks the light from passing through, and it forms a shadow. Are the moon and the person transparent, translucent, or opaque, and why? Pause the video so that you can answer that question for me. Hopefully you all guessed that the moon and the person are opaque, and I can tell this because they are casting a shadow. Shadows are only formed when light shines on opaque objects and it's blocking the light. So now we are going to move on to something very, very exciting. You're going to put your science lab coats on, and you are going to test out your very own experiment. How exciting. We are going to test what objects are opaque, translucent, or transparent. You need to gather 3 objects that you think could be opaque, translucent, and transparent. If you want to do more, then you can do, but you only need 3 to write down. So you will need a light source, and if you haven't got any resources at home, or you would rather use the resources that I have and then write up the experiment from me modeling it, then you're more than welcome to do so. Here are some ideas of objects that you can use for your experiment. So a frosted milk jug, a plate, some glasses, a clear glass, paper, coat, and if you have a light source, that would be great. You could use a torch or a phone light, which I'm sure your adults at home would have. If you don't have any of these resources, and it doesn't have to be this, you can find your own resources, which would be great. If you don't have any resources at home, or you want to just watch me do it, then you're more than welcome to do so. So first thing, pause the video and go and find your resources. Great. Hopefully you've done that by now. Next thing you need to do is write up your prediction. Out of the resources that you have gathered, you need to tell me which objects you predict will be opaque, which objects you predict will be translucent, and which objects you think will be transparent. And you just need to give a brief sentence explaining why you think this. You can pause the video so that you can copy out this text and fill in the gaps. So I'm just going to get the children at home to model it. For children who are watching me do it, here are my 3 objects. My first object is a clear jar. So you might want to write that down. My next object is a book, Bill's new frock. You might want to write that down. And my last object is a plastic wallet, a frosted plastic wallet. So out of those 3 objects, you need to predict which one you think will be translucent, which one you think will be transparent, and which one you think will be opaque. Otherwise, you can do your own experiment and write down your own ones that you have chosen. Fantastic. So let me just go back to our slides. Now that you have written up your predictions, we are going to test our objects. So what you need to do is just write the name of the objects. I'm going to do mine. So I have the jar, I have the book. If you want to draw a picture of the objects in here, you can, and the plastic wallet. So those are my objects. And now I am ready to do my experiment. What you will need to do is you can turn off the light in the room. And what you're going to do is you're going to test how much light shines through them. So you're going to need a light source. I have my light source here, which is the torch. What I'm going to do, just to make it easier for you all to see, is I'm going to turn off my light. Because it's daytime, it's still a bit light. So my first object was the jar. When I shine the light through the jar, you're going to see, if you can see that light clearly, then you'll be able to see that most of the light is passing through that. If I hold this jar up, you can still see my face clearly. So then when you go back on your sheet and it says how much light has passed through it, or you can write down your own, if you can write it down on your own sheet, if you haven't got a printer to print off that sheet, how much light passed through it? Well, you can see the majority of the light passed through that. Because you can see the light from the other side when I shine it at you, and you can also see my face clearly. The reflection of the computer might be making it a little bit more difficult to see, but you can see my face clearly. And when I think about if that object is opaque, translucent, or transparent, well, if I could see clearly from that object, this jar is... I'm going to go on to my next object now, which is the book. I am going to shine my light through the book and hopefully you can see it. Can you see the light shining through? I am shining it. Interesting. How much light is passing through? You need to record that. And you need to record whether this object is transparent, translucent, or opaque. Let's try it from the other way around. Can you see the light from the book traveling through and onto my face? I'm not sure about that one. Make sure you record what you saw, your observations. Pause the video so that you can do that now. My last object is the plastic wallet. First of all, if I just hold it up to my face, you will see, can you see my face clearly, or can you just see the outline and the silhouette? And then I'm going to shine the light through it. Now, although you can see some light is passing through, it's not as bright as the jar. Let's try it the other way. Can you see the light shining on my face from that? A little bit. Do you think this plastic wallet is transparent, translucent, or opaque? Okay, hopefully you've all had time to do the experiment at home. You can take your time when you're doing it. I'm just showing you very quickly because we are running out of time. But moving on, once you've completed your experiment, you just need to do an evaluation. You need to say, I found that the was translucent, the was opaque, and the was transparent. And you need to tell me, what would you, if you were to repeat this experiment again, what would you change? Perhaps it could be the materials, maybe the amount of light, maybe the light source. Think about the different things that you could change for this experiment to make it slightly more interesting next time. Okay. Well, my lovely little scientists, that is the end of our lesson. Really, really well done for completing that experiment and writing it up and recording your observations and your results. Be sure to share it with your teachers on Seesaw so that they can see that too. Thank you for joining Professor Williams. See you later. Bye.